Dedicating his time to music and band practice his whole life, this journalism student never thought he would end up making films about purple oranges and beautiful vistas a year and a half into his college career. A drummer of 9+ years, he has played in several local rock bands of varying genres, currently dedicating his time outside of school to Norwalk-based reggae rock band Breathe Easy. Join us today as we speak with drummer turned journalist and get to know the project he has created this semester. The Humanities Communication Arts program at NCC presents The New Directors, the show that introduces you to the television's future writers, directors, and personalities. And now join our host, Hunter Sharkey, to meet the next new director.
Thank you for joining us for today's edition of The New Directors. All of the people involved in this program are students in the television production course and are directing, switching, controlling audio, operating cameras, and acting as talent for the first time today. The guests you are about to meet are students who, when not on camera, are behind the scenes working hard to bring this program to you with as few mistakes as possible. Each student will write and direct 3 different productions. This program will give them the chance to talk about themselves, the productions they are planning, and give you the chance to get to know them and watch their progress throughout the semester. Our guest today is a person who, in addition to being a journalism major and a student in the TV production course at NCC, has played drums in several different bands around the Fairfield County area. He currently plays in the local reggae rock group Breathe Easy and will be previewing some of his work with that band on the show. Please welcome today's guest, Tyler Telesco.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. So Tyler, with a background seemingly dedicated to pursuing music, what made you decide that you wanted to become a journalism major at Norwalk Community College?
Well, for the longest time, I thought I was going to pursue music. You know, all through high school, I did all the music programs they offered there. I marched in an award-winning drum line. I did jazz ensembles. I did concert bands. And yeah, for the longest time, I thought I was going to do that. As you can see here, as they roll the program monitor, these are some of the things I was a part of. That's a concert band, and the school music programs was all I really had offered in the day. And it wasn't till I was in 10th grade where I joined my first rock band. You'll see pictures of that coming up. And seeing as when I joined them, I realized that that's really what I wanted to do, and that I couldn't really get the same joy that I had playing in the school music programs as I did, you know, playing in these bands. And don't get me wrong, I still really enjoyed that, and it was great for my musical development and making me the drummer I am today and the musician I am today and the person I am today. But I found that music became somewhat of a competition when I was doing it in school. You know, kids would compete on, you know, who would get the better part or who was playing what drum what year. And I just found, you know, just playing music with these bands, I've played, as you heard in the announced copy, I've played with bands of various genres. I just found it to be a lot less competitive and a lot more for me in general. And here are just some more pictures of me playing with some of the bands. That's with a alternative rock group that I played with. Everybody lost. They're no longer together. Rest in peace. But the memories are there. That's I played at the Bitter End nightclub in New York City. I was hired by an R&B singer to go play there with a buddy of mine. And
oh, that's impressive.
Yeah, Craigslist, you know, it hooks you up sometimes. And that's my current band, Breathe Easy. Just rehearsing acoustic. We don't always do it, but you know, it strips you away from the electronic elements. And yeah, and then there should be another picture coming up.
Sounds like it's a very fun thing to do.
Yep. And there's us, you know, playing all amped in. That's actually us recording. It wasn't a very professional recording studio, and we had to redo that recording. Wow, redo. And yeah, that's what I'm doing now, and that's what I'll be doing for the next while until I find another outlet. There's a picture of us playing live at Saugatuck Suites in Westport. That was when it was quite warm out, as you can see. Quite a large band too compared to what I've been in. That's 6 members, and finally that's just a picture, you know, wrapping up the whole thing. That was me back when I did marching band, marched the award-winning drum line, and yeah, here we are.
Yeah, that was very interesting to hear. Could you tell us why you decided to take the TV production course?
Well, as a journalism major, you're expected to be well-rounded, and you'll hear that from both the journalism professors, the program advisors, anyone somewhat involved in it will tell you that you can't just know journalism techniques. So, yeah, that was why I decided to do this, because it does apply, you know, eventually learning how to do newscasts and just learning proper filming techniques is very important to being a journalist in the 21st century. And yes, it is a required program. That's kind of why I took this, but it's nonetheless interesting and helpful to me as a journalism major.
Now, what are some of the most useful things that you have learned so far in this course?
Where to start? I think the most useful thing I've ever learned, like not ever learned, but you know, when it comes to TV and film, is the rule of thirds. I never knew what a difference in the composition of a shot that makes, just displacing an object, you know, slightly off center, and it just makes for a better shot, and I really use that to my advantage, especially in the nature project, as you'll see later. You know, learning the systems of f-stops and letting the right amount of light exposure in, that was also helpful too, and it was very confusing to get used to the system of reversing numbers. Right now I'm drawing a blank, I can't remember how it goes, but something like as the f-stop gets smaller, the lens gets, I can't remember it right now. You remember learning
well,
about that.
it always got me.
Yeah. Just one other thing too, and just composition of good shots. Yeah, that kind of goes along with the rule of thirds, but just learning how to properly distribute, you know, having, if you have, for example, if you were to have an object with a very bold color in a shot, you have to, the person or whatever is counterbalancing that has to be just as bold in color. It's just good composition rules, you know, making sure you have an even distribution of color across the foreground, background, midground, and yeah, several very, very useful things I learned here.
Okay. Now, can you tell us about the productions you created for your Television 1 class, the Learning Project, the Action Sequence, the New England Seasonal Project, and the Big Orange Project?
Yeah, no problem. Well, what did we start with? The Learning Project. This was, obviously it's the first project, so my most amateur. However, I did manage to get very good on cutting on the action and clean entrances and clean exits. That was probably the best shot that you see right there that I did, isolating the chair in the center. Yeah, and as you can see here, these are some clean entrances and clean exits that we had to do through the rest of the semester, and I got used to them and developed a fundamental skill toward getting them good, if that makes any sense, at this point. Now, the T project, as you can see here, used the same talent, that's Jessica. This was basically, the way I see it, more of the learning project, except T in the picture, and a lot more clean entrances and clean exits than originally was intended. I made a few mistakes, like crossing the 180-degree line, which surprises me because I was very conscious about doing that in the past. But in the editing process, I made it work, and I made it seem like that never happened. I cut that shot out, and yes. The nature project. You'll see later, this is what I thought was my best project overall, just because I got to talk about what I went overly long on about before, just composing a good shot. And you know, that's an example of framing that I did. And the area I used, it was Cranberry Park. It's in Upper Norwalk. It's in the Cranberry area, actually. I had a lot of access to shots like this, and just a lot of good opportunities to get good, well-composed shots. And finally, the Orange Project. This I actually used some of the guys from Breathe Easy, my current band, to help me in. And it was extremely stressful working with 6 people on this. You don't even want to imagine, you know, everyone's noodling on instruments the whole time. I'm trying to direct. They don't even understand the stress I'm under. But I made it work, and the whole concept of this was to make a pseudo music video involving a purple orange. You could ask me about that another time if you're really interested in that, but yeah.
Now, of all the projects that you had to create, which would you consider to be your best work?
Best work. Oh yeah, as I said before, the nature project. Just, I got plenty of well-composed shots. I was able to use several techniques that I'd never heard of before and that I used then. Footage isn't rolling right now, but I'm trying to like remember as best as I can from my memory. I was able to, you know, use poor man's dissolves, shift focus, framing techniques. There's a continuous zoom, and I actually broke the rule The NyQuil rule, as Professor Gould mentioned, that you can't go to zoom ins and then zoom outs. But I broke it, on a few shots. I made it worked with what I had. I also really enjoyed being outdoors. It made me much more positive. There's an example of geometric shapes, which was very difficult to find. Yeah, it made it more positive, more of a positive filming experience, made it less work heavy and et cetera. And I just think it showed the best of my abilities. Like, I used a lot of natural artistry to get these shots, and it just felt very natural for me. It's the best way I could describe it. One very important thing I forgot to mention about the nature project that I enjoyed is the adding of music to it. I was able to use my musical background to time when exactly the music would have a change in texture or crescendo or just a crash with when the shots would change. I would match that up with the music, and I found that very natural. It was almost like creating a film score. A lot less difficult, obviously, but it made use of my rhythm and musical background.
Wow, that's very interesting. It is. You mentioned the variety of things that you have learned in this course so far. What was the most interesting and important skill that you learned, and how are you going to use it in the future?
I think, obviously, in addition to the things I talked about before, f-stops and actual, course abilities that we learned, I think most of all, the most important thing I learned was to be adaptable. There were several times where I almost crashed and burned in this course. For example, I really waited on filming the Orange project because it was tough to get 6 people in the room to go do this and be able to stay there for the amount of time.
Scheduling's a pain.
Yeah, and of course, go figure that when I actually did have the opportunity to film it, everyone was there. I'm like, all right, I'm going to knock this out in one day. The camera battery died because I'd used it the other day when I was doing that 2 days beforehand, filming the remainder of the nature project. And I just kind of sat there for a while. I was like, I don't think this is going to get done. But it did. It was stressful. I think it came out very well for what it was. And that's the best I could tell anyone for taking this class or just life in general. Just be adaptable, Even speaking of today, I don't have guest cards like, I was intended to have because, I lost a notebook. I've been complaining about that to everybody this whole class. But I had to wing this. I had to write a new live announcer copy. I had to do everything from scratch. So just be adaptable, everybody. It's the only way you can survive in life.
Well, those are good facts to know. Today we got to meet someone who used his musical background to enhance the films he has created, as well as tell stories about finding success under pressure and detailed the learning process that comes along with taking the TV production course. I'd like to thank our guest, Tyler Telesco, for joining us today. Thank you for being here.
Me, man.
We hope you all enjoyed meeting one of television's future directors, and we hope you will continue to join us each week to watch our progress. Thank you, and you all have a good day. Look at me, dum-dum, look at me. You're supposed to look at me.
This has been The New Directors with your host, Hunter Sharkey, directed by Charles Leahy. I'm your announcer, Vanessa Hilton. The New Directors is a Nora Community College student production.